In today's show, we discuss, shouldn't people with 2.1 or more children not pay taxes?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Daya Boya. Daya, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you keep it safe and well. You're on mute.
You mean that complaints of mine when I go, you see what I mean about life? Don't talk to me about life, I swear. Anyway, Tony, how are you?
I'm super good
Hello,
at living the
audience. How's it
dream.
going? Welcome and thank you for joining us. Now,
Hooray!
don't
I
say it,
won't
don't say
ask
it.
you in future. All I'll do is
Now,
just remind you to unmute yourself.
yes, thank you. That would help. Now
Oh,
then, today's fact is a fact-ish. Okay?
fact-ish. Okay.
Fact-ish.
Okay.
So look into it and, it is what it is.
Right.
In 2014, a Russian man, had to be Russia, by the way, a Russian man attempted to rob a hair salon. However, the plot took an unexpected turn when Olga Zayak, or Zajak, the owner of the salon, overpowered him and tied him up.
Okay.
She then force fed him Viagra and used him as a sex slave for 3 days. And by the way, I got a picture of her. I don't know how we can share it. We'll probably put it on Facebook.
Uh,
She's quite pleasant looking. I don't know why she needs to force feed anybody Viagra and have it for. She's got some kind of weird thing going off in her head. And we have shared links. And there's a
oh,
video-ish, there's a YouTube video where it discusses this.
wow.
And yeah,
If
so
if if this is genuine, she is stunning. She
hmm,
looks like a model anyway.
mm-hmm.
And are you sure that he tried to get away? Because I think
Oh, by the way, for audience members, no, I don't have the address of the salon in case you want to avoid it.
for
So,
our listeners out there, obviously can't see this. Please look at the blurb in our show. Hopefully, we can share the picture of her. She is rather nice to look at. She
yep,
is stunning, in fact. So, this robber, if this allegedly took place and he tried to steal from her, she then force fed him Viagra and
yep.
used him as a sex toy. Either she must have liked him. I can't see that being much of a punishment, if I'm honest.
Well, you say no, you say that, but seriously, yeah, it's still rape, isn't it? Now the point is this picture, this is from 2009. So maybe you need to
Right.
just double check before you go rushing in or anything. Don't
Oh, I
don't
see. Whether this picture is genuine or it's
assuming it's
completely changed.
let's assume it's genuine. She's going to look like that 16 years later.
Oh, I see. Yes, of course. Because
Mm.
this, what's this picture? 2006, did you
No,
say?
no, 2009.
The picture's 2009 and the incident happened in
Nine,
2014.
2009, which was reported
Right.
by uh
Right.
these people in
So this
2014. Yes.
photo is of the lady Olga
Mm.
from the time of the incident. That's what we're saying now. Obviously,
I think it's a slightly older picture.
oh, right. That's a slightly older picture of when. Oh, goodness me. But she's still stunning in this picture.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm saying this was 16 years ago, but the actual robbery
Wow.
was in 2014, wasn't it?
Yeah, I
So
see.
5 years later. So they used an older picture.
An older picture of
So
her,
if you don't know
yeah.
exactly maybe she didn't look like that when the guy broke into. Maybe she didn't look like that when the guy
Maybe
broke
she
into the
didn't. This
center.
picture's sending us, uh, making me get hot beneath the collar, actually.
Yeah,
But we
yeah.
will share the photo just so that our
Mm,
audience can understand what we're talking about. But we don't know
yes.
if this is a genuine story, do we?
No,
Is it
factish.
fact-ish? Okay, there are
Factish. But
a
we'll go
few
back to
other
proper
articles.
facts next week.
Okay, an interesting article nonetheless.
Yes,
So
I
I
just
do.
thought it was just too good to just let go. Just so weird. Just so what, really? But there's so
So
many
look at
articles, by the way. So many
yes,
articles
there
on
are
it.
so many articles.
So
Actually, you've
yeah.
shared four here,
Hmm.
so there must be some truth to this to some degree. But whether that photo is what she looks like when she allegedly
Yeah.
caught him and tied him up. We don't know. She could
Yeah.
have been put on loads of weight and been quite strong and powerful. You don't know. So, but she looks quite demure and attractive in that photo. So,
Yeah,
okay.
if she overpowered somebody who broke into her salon, she could be pretty butch if you catch my drift. And maybe
No, if
that's
she's
why.
overpowered him,
Uh,
he's willingly given himself up.
no, because he didn't know what she was going to do at the time. He was probably trying to get away. So if she's kind of like well, I'm going to
Force fed him Viagra.
well
Tied
because
him up, force
obviously
fed him Viagra.
if she came and wiggled her bottom around and nothing happened, and she had to force feed him Viagra. You understand that she wasn't looking like this. You do get the picture,
No,
right?
maybe she was punishing him because the Viagra would have, especially if he was, I mean, we don't know the age of the guy who came into the salon, do we?
No,
We don't. Okay. That's interesting. So, yeah, maybe she did that to punish him because if you keep taking Viagra, it's not good for you. Not good for you because it's just
I don't know why you have to just go in that direction. You just that's just idle speculation. My Occam's razor thing of she needed to give him Viagra because she didn't look like this. I mean, that's a lot
uh,
easier and more straightforward to believe than weird things
I'm
about punishing. I mean, like you said earlier, that's a very weird kind of punishment.
it is a weird cut
So it's
punishment.
less weird if she didn't look like that and she had to force feed him to get him interested. In fact, he wasn't even interested. He was doing it against his will, which is proper RAPE.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Anyway,
Okay, anyway, I'll leave it for our audience to decide with the blurb on the show. Let's move on with the actual topic of today. And what we're going to discuss today, this is another one of Tayo's one, is shouldn't people with 2.1 or more children not have to pay taxes?
hmm,
Now, why do we even why do we even have to suggest this? If you want to elaborate as to why there's a need to even consider this as a possibility.
okay. So as we spoke about not too long ago on another show, the fact of the matter is that to maintain the population size of any society, you need females in that society to, on average, have 2.1 children. The point one essentially meaning something over two children on average, maybe not up to three. So as over two. So that replaces husband and what well husband replaces father and mother.
Spouses, yeah.
It replaces father and mother. But obviously not every child makes it to adulthood, unfortunately. So some do drop off and they don't make it to reproduction to the age of reproduction. Ergo is 2.1, which is understood to be the replacement rate. Now, Britain is, I believe, is 1.8. So when
1.8 at the moment. It,
1.8, and
Italy 1.2,
good grief,
Spain 1.4, Japan 0.8.
good grief. So obviously not replacing our population.
No.
This has serious repercussions because we're all getting older. In fact, some of us are old already. We're not getting older. We've hit the mark.
Speak for
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, I'm old. I'm an old man. Yeah, I'm happily old. That's the funny thing, but I'm an old man.
Okay.
And we will need some measure, not some measure, we will need workers who to work and to pay taxes so that we can keep the welfare aspect of our state going. And we don't have to die horrendous deaths, cold and homeless and all that sort of thing, just because we're old. So it's got very serious ramifications for any society. And the fact is, we are not meeting our target and having cast about for various reasons as to what might be. For example, I looked up the possibility that has something to do with happiness, and I cross-referenced the happiness index with population growth, and the numbers were all over the place, meaning there was no correlation
No.
whatsoever. So what could it be?
Could be busy
That's what.
lifestyles. Could it
Well,
be?
why are we busy? South Korea was the case that we heavily focused upon when we spoke about depopulation earlier. And a lot of individuals said the problem is it's so expensive. South Korea is such an expensive place to live that they they have to run in place, so to speak, just
Mm.
to to nearly keep up.
Yeah.
And the idea of introducing a child into that would be a drain on resources is ludicrous. There's just absolutely no chance they can do that. So they have this situation where no one is willing to have children because they can't afford
Can't
it.
afford it. There's a number of factors here. So this idea, I mean, governments are looking at this seriously about whether tax incentives are the way to go or tax breaks, but there's a big chunk of population that wouldn't benefit from this anyway because they don't pay tax. So a tax break is a slightly strange way of
Who
doing
doesn't
it.
pay tax?
There's a lower part of the of society, they don't pay tax anyway. There's a big demographic at the low end. They wouldn't be incentivized by this anyway. And they're probably in the best position to have kids
They're the wrong
because,
kind of kids, though.
well, they still have kids.
Yeah, but
If
the wrong kind of kids.
What do you mean by that? You mean it doesn't matter at this
No,
present
no, it
state.
matters. There's wrong kind of kids because they're a drain on resources. So I know who you're talking about. So there are like that section of society. Let's call a spade a spade. We're talking about the people on who don't have regular jobs and they're mostly on benefits or this or that or the other, and they've got kids. They've never worked. They've grown up kids have never worked. These are all benefits. These are tax drains. They're not they're not the kind of people we're looking for. We don't actually need to tax them. I think actually we need to stop the benefits. That's the first thing. Just, hey, look, man, we don't have that kind of money anymore. The good times are over. It was fun for a while. Sorry, get out there and work. That's number one. So that's a separate argument, and I think we should have that discussion because we've been talking about having that discussion for years now, and we've never had it. Or did we? Anyway, who knows? Tony is the memory. If you haven't guessed by now, Tony remembers stuff, and he has to tell me. Have we spoken about that before?
No, not to
I think we did
actually.
something about alcohol. Should
Yeah,
people
we
on
talked about
benefits?
whether people should lose their benefits if they were
Right,
using the money for vices instead of
right.
using it for what it was for. But we didn't actually say we are going to cut benefits completely because you no longer can afford it. I mean, in the US, for instance, they they limit benefits. They do
Mm-hmm.
give
One
benefits, but
year, I
they
believe.
1 year, yeah. Well, 50 weeks, I think.
Right.
It's not even a year. And most jobs by people are, I mean, I don't quote me on this because it was a while since I saw it. They've said that most people who are on benefits get a job around the 50-week mark. Because at the end of the day, you are no longer getting any money.
Yeah.
You have to put food on your plate. So you will take anything at that point. And that's, I mean, I don't believe society in this neck of the woods needs to go down that route. But I think there does need to be some incentive to encourage people to find employment or make it easy for them to do something. Because not only will employment give you income, it also improves your self-worth, gives you some more standing in society, etc., etc. And it's changing that mindset, which is the challenge. But that's a segue away
Mm,
from what we're talking about. But the 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 point of this exercise is for population increase
mm-hmm.
because the downside is as populations are falling, services are impacted.
Yeah, of course.
Massive services are impacted. And looking at the UK as an example, the this is a typical example of what happened after Brexit. A lot of people from Europe were working in the UK because of the freedoms of the EU at the time. And when Brexit happened and the UK was pulling itself out of Europe, many people who were contributing to British society had to leave. And the hope was that British people, who at the time were complaining there weren't enough jobs, would take up the slack. Whereas, so they would all leave, and that means there'll be more jobs available. That didn't actually happen at
Mm,
all.
mm.
The job market didn't go up, it stayed flat. So a lot of services were impacted, including some of the key services like the NHS and the social services, social care. That they've lost a huge number of people and they haven't been able to fill those gaps. And so subsequently, because of our population aging, the problem hasn't gone away. So the UK government has had to look overseas to bring people into the country to take those jobs up because the current population isn't willing to do those jobs. So they're having to go overseas to do it.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with you. It's not that the current population isn't willing, it's that the current population doesn't have to. There's a big difference.
That
If
willing
you,
means have to. If you don't
sorry?
have to, then you don't will to do it. If there's no
No,
need
that's
to do
no,
it,
let's not get into a semantic. No,
okay,
no, no.
yeah,
Let's
but
just use
the,
ordinary English.
okay,
If you're not willing to do it because you don't have to do it.
yes,
If you had to do it, your willingness would be irrelevant. So Britain,
no, that's not
as I
true. That's
watch
actually
me.
not true. No,
No, you just sit there and stuff.
no, because you can do other things. You don't just your will change. I get it, but you can still do other things. So, but yeah, go on, carry
Are
on.
you alluding to
That's
something? Because I don't know what you're talking about
yes,
now.
I am. People would go to things that being illegal, which we don't want. That's a separate topic. And also
Oh,
by removing the benefits that
oh,
we touched on
Tyler knows
before,
what to
it
Tyler knows
pushes
what to
more
do
people.
with Tyler knows what to do with people who want to play that game, man. Just
Okay.
make me your justice minister, and you're not going to have a single flipping problem with people saying, "Hey, I know I'm going to be smart about it." No, you're going to be scared out of your little mind, and you're going to get a job and knuckle down like everybody else.
We don't
Anyway,
live in a fascist state, but okay, let's
sorry.
carry on. We don't live in a fascist state.
Oh well, no, because you're not running it.
I think it's you, my friend.
No, no, no,
Anyway,
no.
continue, please.
Now, what was I saying, Tony?
You were saying about people having or willing
Oh
to
yeah, yes,
do.
okay. Because
Okay.
because whether we like it or not, as I keep telling my students who are messing around, I tell them, I say, guys, the good times are really over. We don't have the money. Money gone, finished. Okay, it is going to be a question of how does the government come out and tell us honestly that we're broke and we can't have this welfare state any longer that we've enjoyed for so long, the way it's presently constituted. It can't continue. And because it can't continue, it's not going to continue. A lot of people don't know this. One of the richest countries in the 1800s or something, one of the richest, if not the actual richest country in the world, was Argentina. Argentina. And look at where it is today. And Britain is headed in that general direction, unfortunately. So we can't, it's impossible to say, oh yeah, it won't get worse. It's definitely going to get worse. What does this have to do with 2.1 children per couple and tax breaks? Here's the thing. It's not really a tax break. I mean, it's kind of is and it kind of isn't. Bringing up a child properly, which is what I mean by the right kind of children, bringing them up costs a heck of a lot of money. And if you factor that in and you compare it to what they pay in taxes, I'd say, without having hard figures, I'd say it's pretty much commensurate or maybe even more expensive. So these people are already paying a form of invisible tax in having kids. And these are the same kids who we expect to become useful citizens working hard and paying taxes and looking after us when we grow old. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It is seeing taxation through a different lens. There's not always a question of the government reaching its hand into our pockets and taking something out. If we are already contributing to the state by other means,
I
that's
mean,
my position.
I mean, the challenge is, you're right. The way that the country is being run is is all the services that we have, all the trappings of modern life, all the things we've got used to will suffer. They can't continue in the present state
Mm,
unless it's addressed that the the government receive more income via taxing, but you need more population to tax.
exactly.
So your population needs to grow. Otherwise, services will suffer and there'll be a detriment to society. So this is part of the reason, this is opinion of mine now, is the government is making a lot of noise about preventing immigrants and illegal immigrants, especially, entering the country. And
Mm,
many people have scratched their heads and wondered how on earth have they failed in stopping immigrants, illegal immigrants, from crossing the channel to try and get into our country. I believe that the will, Tayo has said, isn't really there. They are paying lip service to it
hmm
because it's actually cheaper, longer term, to process and then integrate these people. Now, obviously, some they do have to send on their way, but you are now effectively integrating this group of people into society so that your population is stealthily growing
mm,
via a different means,
mm.
not by having to then lose money from the exchequer directly by taxing people. And you that's like a wing and a prayer. You're saying here's a tax incentive to have children, but if that's realized, it's not realized till 20 years from now. And
hmm
that money is needed now, but they're giving it away to try and incentivize population growth. And who knows, by giving them the tax break, the child may not even get to taxable age in order to return that money that was
Yeah, but they
given.
will in the vast majority of
The
cases.
vast
I mean,
majority of cases, but the money put out, you're having to leave that money and a wing and the prayer, in other words, because you don't know the actual outcome. Whereas by allowing immigrants in and illegal immigrants, yes, they're saying, oh, we need to do more about it. Of course we do, blah, blah, blah. But they're not using all the resources at their disposal to prevent this from happening. They're allowing them in because they can integrate them. And if you can integrate people, regardless of where they're from, they will eventually get jobs. We hope they do. That's more likely to, and they can then pay tax earlier, so the exchequer gets the money earlier and doesn't have to wait 20 years for tax breaks. So it's actually a way of stimulating your population using a different way of doing it. And it's strangely, the US has appeared to be doing this same tactic. That's why they haven't been as tight on their border as as other countries as they could do. Yes, now that Trump's in because obviously he wants the votes, but long term, you don't want to stop it completely. You don't seriously want to close your border because you are actually damaging your own population by stopping immigrants coming in because you're just not producing enough of your own population yourself. So this is a stealth way of increasing your population, but not telling your population that you're doing it because clearly politically it's a vote loser, let's be honest. But it's a way of bringing people in, and it's just a theory of mine. It just seems too strange that we can't solve this problem. And it's not just been now, it's been for years. Think about it. It's not something that any one party struggled with. They've all struggled with, in quotes. I don't believe they've struggled. I believe that they're doing it for an ulterior motive.
I believe they are doing it for an ulterior motive, but not the one that you're suggesting. I believe that they're doing it because our society has been captured by a cabal. A cabal and, okay, I believe that our society has been captured by a cabal that is at the epicenter of an elite class. And it is the elite class, teleguided in parts, if that's the right word to use, and it probably isn't, but driven is a better word than teleguided. It's this elite class driven by the cabal that wants to maximize profits. And they maximize profits by lowering wages. It's really astonishing that somebody on 20, 30, 40 million dollars, this is in America, dollars a year, as a CEO is really enthusiastic about lowering wages for higher profitability. It's like, well, why don't you give up half of your salary, which would be 15 million, and that would help a lot. But it's always, take money out of the little guy. And what happens is that the influx of these migrants, the influx does actually depress wages. Now, in America, again, I'm sorry to keep going about America. I don't know why. I just happen to know all the stats for America and not so much for England. I'm really sorry about this. But apparently, as someone was pointing out, that in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, before things went haywire, a man could have one job, buy a house, have a stay-at-home wife, and send his children to school. And he could do all that on one salary. Now, with two salaries from a working mother who can't stay at home because she has to work to help bring in money, and they still have mortgages that they struggle to pay off, and school fees are horrific. Something has happened. The money has shifted upwards through society towards a small elite. And this small elite has just lost its, in my opinion, they've gone bonkers. I don't know, how many yachts do you need? How many penthouses do you need? Isn't there some point where you go, okay, this is enough? But apparently there isn't. So much so that I'm going to just have a very quick digression. Is it digression or digression? A very quick digression. I'm going to digress a bit.
Yep.
Very quickly. I don't understand why our society allows people to be super rich. I don't think it's good for our society to have super rich people like George Soros and Bill Gates and all that, because they spend money and they spend money on their pet projects, and their pet projects are not always, in my opinion, good for society. So if we limit everyone to, look, you can have 200 times, for example, I'm pulling a number out of fresh air. You can have 200 times the amount of the poorest person, a minimum wage. You can, that's it. That's what you can have. And after that, all of it goes to the government. 100% is just taxed. Right? Because, hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I lost the picture. Because I know that it's in Sweden or somewhere that the CEO, I don't know, this was proposed, whether they actually did it or not, just around the time of COVID, they were saying the CEO of an organization, I believe it was Sweden, cannot earn more than 20 times the amount
income earner in the company.
And that's fantastic.
Yep.
You don't need more. And if I don't know, but I don't think we should even allow that. Now that's a digression. So I don't think you're right. I think they saw an opportunity. They didn't like what the American workers were asking for, which is a fair wage. And they thought, well, stuff these people, bring in these illegals, they'll happily do the job, which they were happily doing the job because it was a lot more than they were getting back in their country. So they weren't complaining. This is what I'm saying. So when you flood the country, you're not actually fixing the population problem, because you are, in one sense, you are bringing in a foreign element who may not admire your system. It's funny that people you think would be grateful aren't, because, and there's a psychology behind this, because people don't respect people who they think are mugs. If you act like a mug, people are not going to respect you. Now, you think you're being kind, you think you're being humanistic and all that sort of thing, but these people just see it as an easy mark.
Yeah.
And people
There is
actually,
an element of truth there, absolutely.
yeah, people actually think that easy
Pushover.
marks are
Yeah.
a pushover, are idiots. They don't respect you. So this is the problem. And you said, what was it about homegrown and integration? Well, it might take you 20 years, but it's going to be 20 years of investment in our own system. We will be paying school fees and so on and so forth, and building up our schools and so on and so forth, rather than just trying to shortcut our way into some nebulous future. I don't think you're on the right track there. That's my counter to you.
Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no easy solution here.
Oh no, there's no
We've
easy
let the
solution.
problem manifest over time. I mean, you eloquently put it together there, actually, where you said about the 1950s, a person could, you could comfortably live in a home
Mm.
by yourself, with a family, without the pressures of two people needing to go to work.
Yeah,
You could choose, one of you could stay at home. I mean, in this day and
my
age,
granddad was a bank manager in Croydon,
okay.
and this is my step step granddad. The white man, if you want to put it that crudely, Britain. And yes, so we had this lovely house in East Croydon, fantastic. I wish I could actually just buy it now, but you can't go back. You can try, but you won't. Huge garden. It was such a pleasant house. My grandmother was stay at home. She was a fantastic, amazing cook, man. Just mouth-watering meals, like, and she used to have all these little snacks, like 4 or 5. She was an Edwardian lady, so a proper hoity-toity lady, and used to have all these blooming tea and high tea and this and that and luncheon and good grief, man.
Okay. Yeah, but that's not the problem being, I think we've touched on this before actually, as a root cause. Is it the root cause of a lot of these problems is affordable housing? Because if the housing costs were reduced, it wouldn't need two salaries
Mm,
to actually run a property. You
mm,
could do it with one. And
mm,
if that was the case, then there's more likelihood of people getting together and having children. It's mainly to do with the cost element
ah,
because there are additional costs. You've got to pay your house, you've got to pay all the bills, which are not insignificant, of course. You've then got to pay for, if you wanted children, you've got to pay for people to look after them while you go to work. And that's extortionate. You've got to pay for education. You've got to pay for this, you've got to pay for that. And the costs add up. So that's why there are a great number of people within society are choosing not to have too many kids because of the cost element, the
mm,
burden that it brings, financial burden, not child burden. Many, I dare say, if you were to ask people without, anonymously, even just to say, would you, if you could afford it, would you have more children? Majority would probably say yes.
yes,
It's the cost element that's stopping them, and that's why they're thinking it through and thinking, look, can't afford this. There's no way we can have more than one child, even, or maybe none at all, because of the cost element. And that's because it begins with affordable housing, affordable bills. But how do you get affordable housing? How?
well, you're not going to like the answer because I thought about all this, and I can guarantee you're not going to like the answer. First of all, and another quick aside, you can't run around saying reckless things like, affordable housing. Because what I see, and as I may have mentioned before on the show, hell hath no fury, such as a vested interest parading as a moral principle. I'm about to wreak my fury on you, and I'm going
Okay.
to pretend that it's a moral principle. But what it actually is I'm sitting there thinking, has Tony lost his freaking mind? What?
Okay.
So my house is going to start losing value because Tony wants to hand out freaking. He wants to make everything nice and yeah. What about the value of my goddamn house, man? No, thanks. Huh? This is
That
an investment.
I know.
Don't mess with my investment, man. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right, that's
So you
tongue in
think that's
cheek.
something?
That's
No, but
no.
it's a good valid reason. I mean, to
Well,
be
a lot
honest,
of people
a
are
lot of
thinking that
people
way, aren't they?
exactly. Your house is your investment for later
Mm-hmm.
life, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
people have done. And so, yeah, to put it back in the bottle now is
No, you
nigh
don't
on
do that. What you do is you raise salaries,
you raise salaries.
and you do that. This is the part you're not going to like, and this is going. I'm going to tell you
You
what
raise
what the
salaries, but stop the housing prices from then going crazy. Because that's the problem. That's a that's a system where there's supply and demand. If people's salaries go up, that's not going to prevent the banks from encouraging house prices because they get more money for mortgages. So, you've got to play it in different ways where end to end, you've got to ensure that if you're going to raise salaries, then you have to make sure that the house prices don't then spiral up accordingly.
There
Because what
won't
have you
there
done?
won't spiral up because what you actually need in that case is to, which I think this government's already doing. I listened to a podcast, and apparently the government is doing that already. It's making buy to rent or buy to whatever is it, buy to lease, is it?
Buy to
Buy to
let
let.
property.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's making that extremely unpalatable by pernicious taxation.
Yeah.
I think you have your first house that you let is like this, but the next one is basically going to be losing money.
Well, in
So,
Spain, strangely,
mhm.
the this is a similar problem because a lot of European nations are having this challenge where they have a lot of tourism. The locals can't buy their houses and live in the houses that they're in because the landlords that had them want to convert them to holiday lets.
Mhm.
And so the government is saying you can't turf out the existing people living in your rented accommodation because you think you can earn more from holidaymakers coming into the seaside towns. So what they're saying now is if you are letting your property out, buy to let or things like that, you will be taxed 100%.
Exactly.
So it's to disincentivize anyone thinking
Yeah,
of doing
because if
that.
you're not going to, in fact, I would go further, make it 120%. You'll actually lose money on it. So
Yeah,
you're not going to
you're not
do
going
it.
to do it.
So it's like that. But you see, like I said, you're not going to.
Airbnb, they're the
Mhm.
biggest company that have affected this trend because people are thinking, well, actually, if I Airbnb my house to let, I can actually get more money in 2 weeks than the current incumbent is paying me rent for 3 months. So they're turfing out or trying to turf out their existing long term renters to change their property into Airbnb properties so
Mhm.
that they can get higher paying clients, even if it's only for a short period.
A sensible government would just go along with that. It wouldn't tax people 100%. You tax them quite highly. And then this is what government can't do. They can tax people. They're happy to do that. What they can't do is to play the long game, put that money into a special fund and build more houses.
Hmm.
You see, that's
Yeah.
the sensible way of doing it. And then you build more houses, there'll be more houses, and then your Airbnb thing. So you can have your Airbnb, but other people can actually buy and
Buy
own their own houses.
houses.
And then who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's been also underinvestment in property. But the property prices have gone up way more than wages. Hence why you have to now, hence why you have to have two incomes pretty
So
much.
about that, because I've told you what, you're not going to like my solution.
Okay.
Identifying the cause of the population decline would help solve it. So I'm saying use taxation, okay, to benefit people who've got more than two kids. Because that's essentially 2.1 kids boils down to have more than two children.
Yeah.
That's what it means. So three
So
kids, four
three or
kids,
above. Yeah.
three or above. Okay. Why is that the situation? Now look, A figure I saw in 2019 when we were still in, you and I think, were still in Toastmasters. A figure I saw all the way back then is that about 250,000 babies are murdered in this country every year.
250,000?
Yes, 250,000. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty sure I can pull it up before the end of this show. Up to 250,000 babies are murdered.
Babies.
Yes,
Babies. Are
yes.
you using the wrong term here?
No, because I believe that life starts at conception.
Okay, but they're
Yes,
not
they are.
babies, they're still embryos. They will eventually be babies, but they're not babies. They haven't got
Well,
all their limbs, they haven't got anything.
no, that's you with your
That's a bunch of
worldview.
cells.
Well, that's you with that is what you call dehumanizing humans. There's a different stage of human life, but it's still human life.
I
But
get it, but
uh,
then but
can
you
we not get
now
sidetracked?
okay, but
Babies.
you're
Now
using that
you've
term
said,
is a bit okay.
well, you said you've clarified what you wanted to mean, but I'm clarifying what I wanted to mean. Well, 250,000 babies who, if you had left a term, they're not even babies. We don't have them. Where are they? They're dead. Why are they dead? Somebody killed them. End of story. So, quarter of
That
a
is
million.
too harsh a term to describe it.
I don't care about your feelings because even the baby that's dead didn't have a chance to have about your feelings. Your feelings don't matter when people are dying. Okay, so let's get off that subject. Get back on point. 250,000 every single year. 5 years, 4 years, 1 million that we could have had. Now, not all those children were wanted. What if we didn't use that outlet as a routine form of birth control? What if instead we designed our society so that sex wasn't a purely hedonistic exercise? What if we went back to the good old days, so to speak? I don't know how good they were, but what if we return to a time, to a way of thinking rather than return to a time? What if we return to a way of thinking where we reintroduce this idea of romance, of family, and of the pleasure of growing old together, which seems to me to be completely lost today. Today is all about hedonism, is me first, me first, me first. And we can actually find
I think this hedonism where you're implying that is the case today didn't happen somehow in the past. In fact, it was probably worse in the
what?
past. Yes, it just didn't get reported. We now
Hedonism.
we now have the means for everybody to report everything. Whereas in the past you couldn't. You
What are you
couldn't.
talking about?
You're talking hedonism, yeah? You're thinking
Yeah.
it's like we need to go back to the old principles, or whatever. We've always had hedonism. Always.
No.
Yes, we
Well,
have.
yeah, okay. Well, of course we've had hedonism. I mean, people have been interested in pleasure from
Exactly.
immemorial. We
And
had
also
orgies back
the
in Roman.
sexual element of it is pleasurable. So how can you say go back to, oh, it makes it just functional?
Not just
What, we no
functional,
longer have what then?
not just functional, but its purpose. Its main purpose now is just slap and tickle. How many bodies can you nail and jog on?
No,
That's not
that's a
good for
terrible
society.
view. That's not how it
But that's what's
works.
happening.
In fact, it's less so. People nowadays are less willing to have freedom sex. It was worse in the 60s in the freedom movement, where love is freedom and all that stuff. Not now, it's less so now. So
It's
you
not,
can't
do you know
say,
why? It's not less. It's less for the men. Because getting a hold of free toddy, if you want to call it that, getting a hold of free toddy for a lot of men is very difficult. This is why they're called incels, involuntarily celibate. It's not voluntary. That's why they're incels. They can't get a hold of it because of social media. Social
social,
media, sorry,
okay. Social
social media
media is a horrible place. I get it. But
has
guess what? They can
encouraged.
walk out the front door and go to things.
No. The women are on social media and they're all chasing the top 10% of men. The top 10% of men can get a leg over 5 different women every single night if they wanted to. But and the 5 different women who have did one of these top 10 percenters think they go home thinking, hey, I'm entitled to a top 10 percenter. I just had one, or I just had three. I just have one every day of the week for myself. And then they think that the average Joe is a scumbag, is a slug, because they got this hyperinflated image of themselves. And that's what's dislocated in society. That if we, you remember, I was arguing once in one of our shows that there used to be a time when in a film, I think it ended in the 70s, but up to the end of the 60s, what was the climax, the romantic climax of a movie? It was when boy kissed girl. And it was so romantic. I was listening to a song the other day, the track from the 60s, and it's just the romance. It was those were a time of romance. There's no romance now. Now it's all about slap and tickle. The so-called rom-coms are not romantic, and they're not even that funny. So boo. And anyway, so as quick aside
That
again.
was a very aside. How relevant that was.
No,
Is
it is
another
because I'm saying, how do we do that? If the root cause of the 2 point of the depopulation comes back down to this situation I'm talking about, that society is fundamentally broken. So even if you did, I mean, taxes would help, but would help to what degree? Well, even if you said don't pay any tax, unless you could incentivize a lot of people that way, it wouldn't work. You have to go a little bit more radical. Do you know what you have to do?
the thing is though, that wouldn't work because you'd then be foregoing a lot of income that the HMRC, the Inland Revenue, IRS in the States, for instance, they don't have that money. Well, America possibly does, but we in the UK certainly don't. So incentivizing via tax breaks has to be a multi-pronged method, and just using that as your sole reason to try and increase your population isn't money well spent, really. You need to look at more innovative ways than tax breaks. It's yeah, I'm not saying I have the answer, but I don't see that as being an all-encompassing fix, and
Well,
it won't be.
you yourself said that a lot of people say they don't have enough money to have kids.
That's right.
Antigua and Barbuda? The hell is that? Anyway, Antigua and Barbuda, never heard of Barbuda. UAE, Vanuatu, St. Kitts and Nevis, Monaco, Bahamas, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Brunei, Seychelles,
They're all
British
just small
Virgin
countries.
Islands.
They're tiny.
They don't pay income tax. So if we stopped stop sending billions to Ukraine to fight the war that's none of our cotton picking business. If we went in Libya and in Iraq and in Syria and in Afghanistan and bombing Yemen, basically taking money, converting them into explosives and blowing it up, basically. If we weren't doing all that, if we weren't paying hotel bills for God knows how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of immigrants in here, maybe we could step down on the income tax to these parents and get them to have more children.
So
That might help.
maybe
Hmm.
you have no maybe, and what the figures
Well,
are. I
it's
don't.
better than what we've got now, because what we've got
It
now is we're headed off the cliff. So let's do something. I mean, instead
yeah,
of just
and
saying blah blah blah.
and strangely, they want to encourage immigration. Why have we just signed a deal with India? We've signed a big deal with India, so that's relaxing the rules. They're relaxing rules in Europe now again, but not
Look, one
with
thing I
people
don't.
moving.
You're signing deals with the wrong. Sorry, this I don't want to be racist, so I'm not. Isn't it funny how people say I don't want to be racist just before they're totally racist? What I will say, is this: you need a population that naturally integrates. You don't
Okay.
want a population where in 500 years' time, they are still distinct and other. So now I argue that I know people don't like mixing with us, Black Africans, but when Black Africans come to a place, give it 100 years, they've disappeared into the society. That you can't tell anymore. They've intermarried, intermixed, intermingled. It's gone, right? But after 240 something years, Idi Amin was still able to easily identify Asians in Uganda. How come? Because they don't intermix. So going and bringing a whole bunch of them into the country doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter what Starmer says. It's like bringing in the Ukraine, the Poles, and the Eastern Europeans and all that. If you had left them to their devices and not kicked them out due to Brexit or whatever, if you had just left them to their devices, they would have just mingled into society. 2 or 3 generations from now, you won't even know they were ever here, just from a
Can
really
I
odd.
just explain something that was actually in the news today? This is June 2025. It actually claimed white British people will be a minority
Who
in 40 years.
will be the majority?
A report published predicts white British people will become a minority in the UK within 40 years. The projection follows research led by Professor Matt Goodwin, examining birth rates, migration, and census data. The report forecasts the white British population dropping from the current 73% today to 57% by 2050 and then falling below 50% by 2063. By the year 2100, 60% of UK residents may have at least one immigrant parent, with white British forming only 33.7% and Muslims nearly tripling. These demographic shifts share concerns about national identity and integration, as Goodwin warns they will spark anxiety and political opposition. The problem is, it doesn't encourage the white people to have more kids. The problem is still going to be there. So, whether people dislike this projection or not, what's going to be done about it? Are they going to encourage white people
I've
to
got step by
procreate?
step plans for you. Step by step.
Okay.
1, send women back to the kitchen. That's number 1. Crucial.
To
The
the
whole
kitchen,
idea,
that's rather.
the whole idea of feminism was not to liberate women. It was to double the workforce and to lower wages. That has been the net effect. So women are working and they're just competing with men. Everybody's competing. Wages have fallen. The rich have gotten richer. Duh. So women go back to the kitchen. We don't actually need you in the workplace, and we do actually need you at home looking after babies who are the next goddamn generation that we actually all, you included, women, goddamn need. Okay. 2,
So, do you want
hedonism.
them to pay tax then if they're at home?
Well, you can't pay tax. You're not earning. What are you paying tax on?
Okay, so they're not they're exempt from tax at all.
They're not
Yes,
exempt from. They're
yeah.
not earning. You can't
Do they get
tax them.
benefits by being
Sorry,
at home? Incentives?
did they get from whom?
Incentives from the government for
I
being
don't
at
see why
home.
they. I don't see why they should. But if they're struggling, if the family, man and woman, and father, mother, and the children, if they're struggling, then it makes sense to help as many people as you can, because you want those kids to grow up happy, grow up healthy, and grow up to be productive members of society. So yeah, they should have, if that's what it takes. But hopefully, with a well-adjusted society, you won't need to.
So, what
Um,
about those women that don't want to follow that advice? Should they be penalized for going to work?
no, just taxed.
Just taxed.
Yeah, just
So
taxed.
that's what's happening now.
Yeah. So if the it should be.
You're not changing anything other
I
than
am changing.
telling
I am.
people to go home.
Yeah.
That's all you're
I
saying.
have. We do have laws now that say you can't have what is called positive discrimination or whatever it is. You have to what is it? Blind hiring. You can't discriminate
Yeah.
against women. Well, this time we we actually want you to favor men. So it's an actual policy. The government said, no, favor men. We don't want women should go into the kitchen and go home and look after the family. We
But
want
you're
that.
taking away a great asset because some of the women that are in working environments now
That
are
is such a
producing.
woke piece of
No, it's not.
nonsense,
It's
man. Look,
true.
look,
It's true. You can't
no.
just say that. You can't deny it. No, it's
Statistically,
not.
where women are in large part in companies, productivity falls. Let's not forget what happened in
Nonsense.
Iceland.
Where are you getting those figures from?
Iceland, the women went on strike and productivity rose. It's like the CEOs were like, please don't come back to work. We've actually got some serious work done. Look,
Nonsense. I'm sorry.
uh,
That's nonsense.
no, what do you mean is nonsense? Anyway, we'll get
Oh,
data for you shortly. And by the way, it's very difficult to get data, not because not because it isn't true, but because this is a hypergamous society and it's a feminist society, and they just lie. They just look you in the eye and just tell lies. Anyway, you interrupted me. I was on a nice flow there somewhere. And
go
then,
on.
yeah,
I
but you
just had to
interrupted me. I've
jump
forgotten
in
what the hell
because
I was saying.
you were being nonsensical at times.
You can't just call it nonsense. Okay,
It
where are
was
your blooming data? Where's you said, hang on, you
You need to
just
back
said
up your claims. You were
no, no,
saying
no, no,
about
no, 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 no.
Iceland.
You
I
made a
need to
claim
show
too.
it.
You made a claim. Your particular claim was that, yeah, women will make wonderful things. Where is it? Where is it? Show me. Show me where women, your data, women have done somewhat wonderful things in society. I'll
Okay,
wait.
I'll talk from my personal
No,
experience
no, 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 no,
being
no. I
a
don't want personal.
manager in my what?
That's
Why?
anecdotal.
Why
It's
that's
anecdotal. I don't
anecdotal?
know. It's
That's
anecdotal.
my
Give
own
me
managerial
data
experience in the past.
from
Why?
my personal experience, and I was a manager too. It was a lot of bollocks where these people were concerned.
Oh,
So there,
nonsense.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm
you're
just
nonsense
I'm getting
because
quality people, and they were both
I had
genders.
my eyes open and wasn't
Okay.
woke. I called a spade a spade. If it had been there, I'm a facts and evidence man.
No,
I've
okay.
always been. I'd have been the first one to jump up and say, "Look, I'm talking about people that I know are good." Have you forgotten? I've told you several times who my mother was. She wasn't some rando. She
So
was
you saying that men are better at jobs than women across the piece?
across the board. Yes.
Every job.
Well, yes.
So working in a kindergarten as a teacher should be male, not female.
Yes.
Okay. I'll leave it there because I'll let our audience decide on that
Well,
answer.
it should be. It used to be. And if there was a time when it was exactly like that, I don't really like the idea of men looking after little girls. So that
Absolute
I'm a little bit
nonsense.
I'm a little
Yes.
bit skittish about that.
Uh-huh.
As skittish as I am, women looking after little boys. Why
Okay.
can't the women look after little girls and the men look after little boys? That I think would be right and proper. Anyway, so sending women back, hedonism, got to deal with it. We've got to stop films that glorify sex. Films, same thing, films and movies. What's the difference? Films, books, plays, stories. We've got to come down. It's a culture war. We've got to come down heavy on the people who play up to sex. And we've got to tip it towards romance and true connections. That's a given. Next,
What's got romance got to do with it? If you want its functional society, why have romance? Why don't you just have
romance is the glue that holds that gets people to work together and struggle through their difficulties and have long-term relationships. If it's just sex and you hit a rough patch, it's just very easy just to say, you know what, this isn't working for me, I'm gone. But that's not healthy for the kids. What is healthy is if there's this romantic attachment and both partners go, look, okay, we have issues, let's work through the issues. Make divorce extremely pernicious for men and so much and for the women. Women now are rewarded for breaking the contract. They break
yeah,
the
that I
contract, they
agree
get
with
the
that
house,
one.
they
I
get
agree
this.
with that.
So we need a situation where it's like, no, 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 that's all going to stop. So that people can work together and live together and bring up the kids together.
Yeah,
And that's
but
what we
you
want.
do realize that there are some people who have vices that can't overcome those
Yeah, but
vices,
they're a
and it causes
minority. It's
they're
not.
not a minority. It's
What,
not a minority.
where's your data now? Go on.
Oh,
No, where's your
okay.
data
Look,
now?
we've got to the top of the hour. You need to sum up. Shouldn't people with 2.1 or more kids not pay taxes?
Yeah, yeah. And if you can't go all the way to not pay any taxes, then at least tax credits or something that would help and encourage people to have more children. But having children is so expensive that you really could look at it and go, yeah, we're taking 13,000 or whatever it is, or 14, 15, 18,000 off you every year. If you had that in your pocket, because you have three kids, don't forget, it's not speculative. We're not going to give it to you until you've had the three kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you've actually got the three kids. Now you can start thinking of a private school. Now we can actually bump up the number of private schools, and we can all sorts of things we can do because we know you've got the money.
Just may I add that this has been done already in other countries with limited success. It's
Yeah,
not a
without the rest of the thing.
catch-all. It's not a catch-all. France has done it. They're actually got a lot of data in France about the tax breaks and how it's affected society, and it hasn't had a massive influx. Although, strangely, they are the least affected with population decline in the European nations, which is interesting. So, but other countries have also tried it with limited success. I'm not saying it hasn't worked; it's just been limited. I think it has to be a multi-pronged approach by using different incentives, different tax breaks for people to increase the number of children that they may consider. But certainly there has to be some consideration for cheaper housing, cheaper bills as a whole, which will allow people to have more children because they can afford to do it. If prices and costs keep rising as they are, that will definitely not happen, even with the tax breaks. It just won't because people will see, look, I cannot afford to have children, and they will not do it. Hence why the government are looking at innovative ways, maybe overseas, to bringing people in to increase populations that way,
I've had a
so
look.
that services are not affected in as much as they are being.
I've
And
had a
that's the
look.
challenge.
I've had a look at your French tax thing. It's one kind of weird scheme. French tax breaks for couples with three or more children. They receive an extra tax share for each additional child and acts one more tax share. So a couple, the house divided by the number of tax shares, which reduces their taxable income per share and can lower the overall tax burden. I'm just saying, look, what the hell is this? This is from what is this? What I said is this: how many kids have you got? Three. You don't pay tax. Jog on.
Well,
Finish.
the
So
figures
when
need a bit
somebody has
more.
tried that,
No, the figures need more checking than that. You can't just willy-nilly give money away. They have to get some return on it.
oh, I'm sorry,
And
this is
that's all
my
I'm saying.
solution, not yours.
Okay.
And
All
my
right.
solution is, how many kids have you got? More than two. Yes, I got three kids. You don't pay tax. Next, end of story.
Okay.
Try it, and if it fails, say Tayo, it failed. But you can't point to some people who, but what the hell is a blooming tax share? What the hell is this? No.
Okay, we could talk further at this, but unfortunately, we've reached the top of the hour. So, if you've loved this episode, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexpected twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tayo, and we are the TNT Talk Show, but unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.